Regular viewers will be well aware of the faith this series of videos has in the old market, saying a bad stock in a good sector will tend to outperform a good stock in a bad sector. This won't be right all the time. Nothing to do with investing is ever that easy, I'm afraid to say. But taking a view on a sector can help you focus your research on certain areas while you swerve others and in the end save you some time. Ultimately though, you will still need to get the sector right to help your portfolio perform once you've done all of your diligent fact checking and number crunching. Now this seems as good a time as any to actually do some of that number crunching ourselves and look at which sectors are doing well and which are not, especially as the FTSE All-Share has now more than recaptured the ground it lost during August's China-inspired panic, as this first graphic here shows. Hello, I'm Russ Mould, AJ Bell's Investment Director, and in this week's edition of our regular market review, Breaking the Mould, I'm going to look at what we can learn from what the market seems to like and dislike right now. Now, one thing that catches my ear is how there's been a clear change in the market's mood music since the summer. So let's start with what's done best overall this year. These are the top 5 performing sectors in the year to date, with gains since the 1st of January stretching all the way from 19 to 40%, and that compares to a 1.4% drop in the FTSE All-Share. These winners in order are forestry and paper, household goods and home construction, software and services, non-life insurance and real estate investment trusts. That shows a clear leaning towards cyclicals, especially those with a UK bias, with a little sprinkle of takeover activity thrown in, at least when it comes to those non-life insurers. Now the year's weakest performers are shown here, with losses to date of 14 to 47%, again compared to that 1.4% drop in the All-Share. There's no great shocks here, with industrial metals, mining and oil and gas down among the dead men, alongside automobiles and parts and actually aerospace and defence. But for me, things get much more interesting when we look at what's done well or badly since the 30th of June, and we look at sector momentum in the second half of this year. Let's start once more with the biggest risers. Here we don't look at performance in percentage terms, but look at where the sectors rank by performance, from 1 for the best, 39 to the worst, and we do that on a weekly basis, courtesy of data provided by our good friends at Shares Magazine. The biggest 5 gainers by ranking are food producers, tobacco, leisure goods, healthcare equipment and services, and again real estate investment trusts. Now, they've risen by between 12 and 21 ranking places in the second half, and in terms of the lessons we can draw, well, there seems to be a defensive bias here. Food producers, tobacco, healthcare, and do note that 6, 7 and 8 in the rankings in terms of gainers were pretty stodgy sectors as well, because they're beverages, non-life insurance and gas, water and multi-utilities. Now, leisure and the commercial property sectors put a bit of a domestic spin on things as well, which is perhaps understandable in the context of fears over whether the global economy really is reaching escape velocity or not. If it were, well, then you kind of thought that the US and UK might have raised interest rates by now, while the EU may not have needed to drop some very heavy hints about potentially expanding its quantitative easing programme at its next meeting in December. Now, the most dramatic losers in terms of momentum since June 30 are, I admit, slightly to my surprise, different from those who were stuck at the bottom in terms of year-to-date performance. The laggards since summer, with ranking drops of between 11 and 20 places, well, they are electrical and electronic equipment, general industrials, food and drug retailers, industrial transport, and oil equipment and services. Now, with the exception of the stricken grocery grouping, which has got pricing and competition problems all of its own, each of these areas really has a cyclical or commodity-based flavour to it, again suggesting the market may be worried about a rollover or deceleration in economic and corporate earnings momentum. Again, we must emphasise the past is of course no guarantee for the future, but this distinct change in market trends could be worth following as we approach the end of 2015 to see whether they set the tone for 2016 and beyond. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.